Good evening, Facebook family and friends. Um, I'm here today to do something that I have been procrastinating about doing for a while now, but the Lord has just been tugging and tugging at me, so I can no longer resist doing it. Um, and the reason why I'm doing this video, I felt like the Lord was leading me to be a voice of reason in this um, these tense times that we're in right now with all the racial tension that's going on and taking place in our country. I mean, in our different neighborhoods and etc. I mean, it's a real trying time that we're going through right now, and I feel like that the Lord wants us. When I say us, I mean the people of God to take a stand, unite, and be that light that He's called us to be on that shining light on the hill for such a time as this. And we're going to have differences. We're going to have disagreements. That's okay. That is fine. As a matter of fact, if we didn't, I mean, one may think that we were robots being controlled, but that is not how our Father made us. He made us with free will. He made us, to have, our own minds to think, to process. I mean, to communicate with each other, and that's a beautiful thing. But it's only when we do it in love, with the love of Christ, that it's effective, and that is only then will it actually pour out into the rest of the world to bring about change. And that's what we want to be about. We want to be agents of change as being part of God's army. Um, just to share a little bit about, my background, I was raised in the South. Um, I had four siblings, one brother, I'm sorry, one sister and three brothers. Um, and like I said, we were poor. As a matter of fact, I mean, the rent that my dad paid for the house that we lived in was only $25 a month. But the fact we were poor, but we didn't know that we were poor. Uh, we thought that everyone lived that way. As a matter of fact, I felt like if you own a brick house, then you must be rich, if you can imagine that. But once again, we grew up in the South, North Carolina, and we grew up around, black, white, Hispanic. I mean, they all, you know, were in our area. And were there racial issues sometimes? Yes, there were. I mean, once again, I mean, we're living in a world of sin. There are going to be those times. There were times when I, have heard the N word. There were times, when we, came back with, with cracker, honky, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it was going both ways, but that was out of ignorance. You know, when I was a child, I acted as a child. When I grew up and became a man, my attempt was to be a man. When I became a Christian, my whole life changed. I no longer belong to myself. You, as a child of God, do not belong to yourself. You belong to Him. You were bought with a price. We all were bought with a price. We can't forget that. He paid our ransom because of the love that He had for us. And that's the same love that He wants us to have for one another, regardless of our skin color. It wasn't my choice to be born black. I didn't have a say in it. It wasn't my wife's choice to be born white. She didn't have a say in it. That was God's doing. And God said that when He made us, all of us, He said it was good, regardless of what color. But what was good became not good because of sin and disobedience. So fast forward, through that one choice that was made in the Garden of Eden brought about tons and years of heartache and anguish and pain and suffering that many went through. As I was saying, I experienced things in the South when I was coming up, but those things didn't make me. That's not who I am. Our parents taught us to respect everyone, regardless of what color that they were. I actually can say that I can attest to say that mainly my mother is responsible for the way I am with people because she just loves people. Period. As a matter of fact, I remember when she worked at this truck stop. This was back when we were still in grade school, and sometimes we would go up. And spend the night with her up at this truck stop there. And she would fix us breakfast or dinner, whatever it was. But one of her best friends, someone that loved her to death, was this white lady, and then I remember her name to this day was Rosa, and they had the best friendship. But once again, that's just my mom. She loved people, and so I can say, Mom, thanks for instilling in me, okay, the values that you had. And my mom grew up in the times where there was still segregation and things of that nature. But those weren't things that, my mother or father harped on, when we were kids. Growing up. Did we know about it? Yeah, of course we did. Mainly because, okay, it was constantly all over TV, the media. So they've been trying to paint a picture for a long time now, if you catch my drift. Um, so when I joined the military, okay, that was a really that was something that also, it changed my life. It for the better because you find out a lot about yourself. Physically, mentally, emotionally. It's just something that an experience that I think, once again, just my thoughts personally. I think that every young man and young lady should experience because it's life changing, and I'm sure that all of my veteran buddies, that may see this video will attest to. It is we had a brotherhood. It's a different way of life. We had differences. We didn't always agree. We had spats. Black with white. White with white, black with black. But at the end, we all came together because we had a common cause, and that cause was to be trained and ready to go defend this country that is in chaos right now. So just imagine how the veterans and the ones that still currently serve, how they must be feeling right now. To go put their lives on the line, Many gave their lives, and to be feeling like that there are so many today that really could care less about this country. Is this country perfect? No, it's not. No country is, because every country has sin. That sin that started in the Garden of Eden affect the entire world. But we, God's people, His chosen people that He has called for such a time as this. We have to unite. We have to unite. I refuse to believe that military veterans, soldiers, can have differences, but at the end of the day, they can put all those aside and go out and fight a battle because they know what their cause is. They have a common cause for the greater good. I refuse to believe that we could do that, but God's people, for some reason, we just can't cross that hurdle. I don't believe that. If we are truly who we say we are, and that's lovers of Christ, then there's no way that we can say that that's something that we can't do, regardless of our differences, regardless of our color. Faith first. Faith before culture. That's the way it has to be. I'm a Christian before I'm black. My wife is a Christian before she's white. We are one in Christ. There are some, and I know it's possible. Because I've seen it happen with people. I've had conversations with people. That didn't agree with me, but it's all about how you go about having a dialogue, how you go about having that conversation with that person with dignity and respect. But one thing I do want to say, to us all, and this is, to all, but especially my brothers and sisters in Christ, we need to realize what's taking place and what's at stake here. The enemy of our soul is having an all-out assault right now. And he's using any and everybody that's available to be used in order to bring about division. We, as the children of God, have to be alert, looking and recognizing what's taking place around us. This is not new. This racial thing is not new. This is not something that's new to us. We've seen this before. We've seen this movie. But we have to get to the point to where being that we've seen it before, we need to be united. We should be trained up and ready to recognize it for what it is and said, no, get thee behind us, Satan. We've seen this before. You're not going to divide us. Yes, we have differences, but we serve the same God and we have the same purpose, regardless of our colors. So get thee behind us. That is my declaration for the time that we are living in right now. And this is going to probably be, I don't know, it may be controversial to some people, but once again, this is just me. I'm speaking for me, not for anybody else. And I don't expect anybody else, to feel the way I feel or think the way I think, because I'm an individual. I am the way God made me. But I will say that I don't walk in fear. I don't. It's not because I'm this big bad individual that I think that I'm invincible, whatever. I'm anything but that. I'm a very humble person, and I just like to see, things. I mean, you know, just operating in harmony, especially when it comes to God's people. But I don't walk in fear. I mean, when I go out, riding, I mean, driving, whatever, I have been stopped numerous times. I mean, since I've been here in Pennsylvania, I mean, even before I got here, I mean, down south, I mean, by the police, and rightfully so, because I mean, I just have a heavy foot, and I always say it's because I spent time in Germany driving on the autobahns, so and there's no speed limit. But anyway, but I don't, I, I'm not fearful because I mean, if it's meant for me to go out, I mean, being pulled over by a cop, I mean, here out for whatever reason, I mean, then God knew it before I came here. But but that's not the reason. I just don't. Well, I don't know why. I mean, well, I do because of the Christ that's in me. But even before, during the times before I gave my life, I mean, the times that when I had backslid, I mean, and turned my back on Christ, when I went out and was doing my own thing for whatever, I wasn't walking in fear. I didn't feel inferior to anyone. I didn't think anyone was better than I was. I didn't think I was better than anybody. That's just, how I am. That's how I was raised. That's how I was taught. That's who I am. Um, I'm blessed. I mean, I feel like I'm more than blessed. When I think about where I came from, I mean, and where God has brought me and my family from, I mean, I'm telling you, I mean, I'm humbled. I'm I mean, just thinking about it right now, I mean, really, I mean, it wants to bring me to tears because, like I said, we were poor. We had nothing, nothing. We had an outhouse for a toilet. We sometimes, had, I mean, to where it was, you talk about, people talk about the rats in New York City, these big rats and all that. Well, I guess some of them must have migrated down south to North Carolina because we had some of the biggest rats that you ever want to see. They were so big that they were black. And I'm talking about they were huge. And I remember to this day vividly, one day my mom, she was terrified of rats. She wasn't afraid of snakes. I mean, she would kill a snake in a heartbeat, but she was terrified of rats. And one day it was like, I've never seen my mom jump this high before. I mean, she literally jumped up off the floor into a chair. I mean, leaped because like four of these big, huge rats came running through the room that she was in. I mean, but that's but that's what God brought us from. And now I'm blessed to where I have a wife that loves me unconditionally. I mean, but I always tell her, but I love her more. You know, I love her more. So that's why I always have her, tell me first, I love you. I always say, I love you more. But we're blessed. Okay, between the two of us, we have 10 kids and 25 grandkids. That's a blessing. That is a blessing. That's a blessing from God. It's a blended family. And did we go through our challenges? Yes, we did. Yes, we did. But you know what? God had a plan. God was backing us. He brought us through the challenges that we had. To whereas right now, he just like, I mean, I'm just amazed. I'm amazed at what God has done, and I feel like in my heart, I mean, we right now, God's people, we are with as bad as things are right now in our country, in our world, and unfortunately, I mean, excuse me, that they're going to get worse before they get better. But at the same time, I feel like that as we unite as one body, serving one God for his cause, we are going to see some of the most awesome miracles and moves of God than we have ever seen in our lifetime. Because I feel like that God is going to eat with all this chaos that the enemy is stirring up. I feel like God is going to show who he is as well during this time. But we, God's people, we have to unite. We have to get past our hang-ups and our ordeals that we're dealing with. And really, when it comes down to it, my personal opinion again, it starts with us as individuals. We have to look in the mirror. We have to ask ourselves, is there something that traumatically changed me or affected me in my past that I went through that I have yet to deal with, that I haven't dealt with yet? And if that's the case, there's always going to be issues, there's always going to be hang-ups until that is dealt with, until that is put on the cross. That's why Christ died. He wants us to bring those things to him. And I'm sure many have went through, horrible situations, horrible ordeals of no fault of your own. But when it comes down to it, anything that any of us can think of that we went through, that we experienced, doesn't compare to what Christ did. Not in the least bit. When you really think about what he went through, to carry his own cross, to this hill, where he knew that he was going to be nailed to this, and die. And then to hang there and say, Father, forgive them. Forgive these individuals that just nailed him, pierced him, pulled his beard, spit on him, did everything. Imagine it. You've seen it, but you know what? But even the movies don't do justice to what he actually went through. But for him to say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's something for us to think about. Because I can tell you, we can fool each other. Sometimes by saying that I love you, I forgive you, I don't hold this against you, or whatever. But we all know we're not fooling God. We're not fooling God. I'm believing with everything within me that this is something that we can, we must do if we're going to survive. Because, like I said, it's going to get rough. We're going to go through persecution. We have to. The Bible says it. But wouldn't it be a lot? Wouldn't it make it a lot easier if we went through it together as one? We're only as strong as our weakest link. I love you guys. I hope that this has given you something to think about. Once again, it wasn't, here to be a lecture to talk about who's right, who's wrong, but it's to talk about God's people and where I feel like he's calling us to be for such a time as this. We need to put our differences, it's not about us. It never has been about us, but it's about Him, our Creator. We were created for His purpose, never for what our agenda was. Although with His love for us, that's extra. But we can't forget that we weren't put here for our purpose. It's all about Him. Have a blessed night. I'll talk to you all later.